Welcome to the Sangamon Valley Democratic Club. My name is Brodie Hilp. I serve as president, and I'm here with Vice President Rick Adler and board member Cecilia Manalga, our Zoom administrator. Thank you for joining us tonight. And in addition, Rick, Cecilia, and I want to thank those of you who voted in the ADEM election for us to be delegates to the California Democratic Party conventions. Thank you so much. And I want to alert you to the fact that the Sangamon Valley Democratic Club will be electing officers at our May meeting. So please consider running for president. I've been president for 8 years, so I'd be glad to help the next person who steps forward. And we have positions of vice president, secretary, or treasurer of the club. And in particular, we need someone to run as treasurer, as our current treasurer is stepping down after 8 years of wonderful service. Thank you, Brian Lawver. And a treasurer is very important, and we have a great need. And I know there's lots of talented people out there, you members, and we would appreciate it if you could just step forward to be treasurer. If you're interested in running, please send an email to president@srvdems.org. And I think Cecilia can put that in chat. We also have a need for someone, a registered Democrat, to attend the meetings of the Democratic Party of Contra Costa County. These meetings are once a month in the evening, the third Thursday of the month. Each Democratic club gets one member to be a member of the DPCCC. This is the Democratic Party of Contra Costa County. Rick Adler is currently our club member, but we need an alternate for him. So someone to attend when he cannot attend. If you think you might like to be the alternate DPCC member for our club, please email president@srvdems.org. We will also vote on this at our May meeting. And
I don't miss too many meetings, so don't worry that you're going to have to be going to a lot of meetings.
Okay, good. And we have some sad news. Fellow Democrat John Rowe has passed away. He was not a member of our club, but he was very active in labor, belonging to two unions, the United Federation of Commercial Workers and the SEIU, the State Employees International Union, Local 2015, a union of healthcare workers, where he served on the advisory council. He frequently traveled to Sacramento to lobby on behalf of labor. He also campaigned for many Democratic candidates. We will miss John Rowe. And other sad news, Democrat Janet Abelson passed away this morning. She was council member and mayor of El Cerrito, and I knew her through the El Cerrito Democratic Club and the Democratic Party of Contra Costa County. She worked on social, political, and democratic causes. She has a legacy of good works and was a great example of leadership.
Brodie, I just want to interrupt very quickly. Nicole has joined, and she was going to speak about gun violence.
Yes. Okay. Let me just get through my introduction.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Whoops. Okay. Let me go back. And then I'm sorry to say, but I have some more sad news about our speaker. I was informed yesterday around 1 o'clock that our speaker, Joan Donovan, was hospitalized over the weekend. And she is still recuperating. So she's unable to speak. And I feel really bad. This is the first time something like this has happened to our club, where we do not have our speaker that we've advertised. I advertised in the morning on Wednesday that she was speaking, and then they let me know 1 o'clock on Wednesday, yesterday. I did try to get one of our local congressmen to come to speak, but they're all back in DC because for today's vote. But we do have some great local speakers who will discuss local issues. And, we have some corporations in our, there has been a lot of gun violence in California. And we have Nicole Sue, who is the president of the Moms Demand Action. And she's here to speak just for a few minutes to say something. Thank you, Nicole, for being here.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Brodie. Thanks for thinking to ask me to hop on, given the fact that our awesome speaker is out. I hope that she's okay. I'm Nicole Sue. I think a lot of you know who I am and who Moms Demand Action is, but if you don't, we are the largest grassroots organization working to fight gun violence in the country. I think we're over 10 million strong now of volunteers, and we're all volunteers. And I'm the co-lead for our local Greater Mount Diablo Valley regional group. And we have quarterly meetings. Our next meeting is going to be February 22nd at 7 p.m. And it's we're working to make it a Zoom and in-person meeting this time. If you are interested in learning more about moms or getting involved in hearing about what we're doing locally, you can text READY, READY, to 64433. You know, this has been a really rough week. It feels like it's just never ending. And every time we look up, there's something else, some other horrific shooting happening. This is not normal. If more guns made us safe, we would be the safest nation in the world. It's horrific and awful. And a couple of notes that I did want to just emphasize is that while these most recent horrific shootings happened here in California, gun laws do work. And data shows that states with stronger gun laws like California have a much lower death rate to gun per capita than other states with lax gun laws. And we don't know a whole lot about the shooting yet, but we know that I think it was the Half Moon Bay shooter, you know, his gun was, or maybe it was Monterey Park, I'm getting them confused, but it was obtained, it's not legal here in California. So unfortunately, our laws are only as strong as the bordering state laws. And that is why we really need to push for federal laws. And I know that more discussion is coming up at the federal level about a ban on assault weapons. And I sure hope that that works. But locally, other things that we're doing is trying to always just emphasize safety and responsible gun ownership and making sure guns are stored. And our group has been working on local city gun storage ordinances. We passed in Walnut Creek, Pleasanton, Dublin. We just got one passed a couple months ago in Orinda. Lafayette and Moraga have them, and we're going to this year target Danville, San Ramon, and Concord to get these ordinances passed. So I'll probably be sharing information on those. What we will need is people who are residents of those cities to show up with us and just be there in support, and perhaps maybe make some calls or send some emails asking them to consider passing these ordinances. So that's something that we're working on locally to try to do. You know, it's not gonna change, you know, everything, but it's like the seatbelt laws. It's something that just gets in the vernacular of people and gets people thinking about the importance of safe gun storage, and changing behavior is really, really key, and making sure that people know that we could, you know, we're a Half Moon Bay, we're a Sandy Hook. It could happen anywhere at any time. And the more people that understand the importance of just keeping firearms locked and secure, the better, particularly with child preventable shootings and gun suicide, which is very impulsive. And if people don't have access to a gun right when they want to try to commit suicide, the odds of them wanting to go back and try later are slim, because it's such an impulsive thing. So just some things to think about. And I know you all are in support of, you know, everything that we're doing, and we all care about so many important causes. And I thank you all for being involved and listening.
If you would like to put your meeting in chat, you could share that.
Okay.
details. And I think it wasn't it Feinstein that passed the assault rifle ban, and it was in place for a while. We should probably lobby her and ask her to do that again.
Well, I know it's back on the table. I just don't know. Like I got a text from Lucy Macbeth, who's a congresswoman from Georgia and also has lost her son to gun violence. And she started as a mom's volunteer, and she's starting it back up again.
Oh, good. Okay.
So our meeting, okay.
Okay.
I don't know if you realized it, but you just made a pitch to a county supervisor.
Oh no, I don't see her on here.
John
Gioia,
in the room.
Supervisor.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, John. Oh, hi. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if there's something we
Why
can
not
do at the
just
county level.
Go for the county level legislation.
Yeah.
Why not shoot higher? Go for the
Yeah.
county
Well,
legislation.
yeah, I mean, we definitely work at the local and state and federal level. We have our advocacy day coming up and things like that. But yeah, if there was something we could do at the county level, particularly, and I know that law enforcement would very much support something too around ghost guns. That's a real big concern and threat that law enforcement is really struggling with right now.
Well, thank you so much for being here and speaking about this important issue. And we'll look for the information in chat. Next up, we have Jillian Elliot. She will speak. Over the years, Jillian Elliot has been vice president of marketing, vice president of fundraising, and or government relations for various nonprofit organizations in the areas of health and human services, environment, the arts, and higher education. Currently, she considers herself a citizen activist, and she is co-chair of Indivisible Central, Contra Costa County. Thank you, Jillian, for being here and speaking.
Thank you so much, Brodie, and thank you, San Ramon Valley Democratic Club. I've been a member for years, and you have just such a great group here. Speaking, representing the MRC Accountability Group, which is a growing group of individuals, mostly in Martinez, who are working to hold the Martinez Refinery Company accountable. I'm really happy to see Shoshana here. She has been working with us. She's with Sunflower Alliance. And I also am very happy to see John Gioia here. He's been very involved. He was very helpful at the Bay Area quality management and hazmat, all of those issues. He's been incredibly helpful in his leadership. And I'm going to be sharing some information with you today and give you some ideas about where things are and hopefully some things that will make you want to get involved also. I'm indebted to Craig Lazzaretti and Charlie Davidson and the Contra Costa Health Department who have provided a lot of the background information that I'm going to be sharing with you. Our story starts off on Thanksgiving. I don't know, I probably remember Thanksgiving. This is a pretty remarkable one because not only was it the first time that a lot of people got together face to face, but it was a beautiful weekend. It was a beautiful Thanksgiving and the day after. And I know that I personally taunted my siblings who are on the East Coast and in icy cold weather that I had my windows open and was enjoying the breeze. Other people had their families come to see them and have the holiday with them. And they spent time going outside and letting kids play in the park and doing a lot of things and just enjoying the weather and just how great that weekend felt. But we didn't realize what was going on. The next day, a lot of people noticed dust on their cars and on their lawns, and they didn't know what it was. It was like, has there been a fire? What is this? It's gritty, it's white, it's dusty. And so people took to Facebook and social media saying, this is happening in Martinez. Anybody else have this happen? And that's when the Contra Costa Health Services got their first heads up that something was going on. It was through social media. It was from people self-reporting. And that's not right. That's not good. You know, we didn't realize at that point that we had been subjected to an accidental release of spent catalyst from the Martinez Refinery Company. So between about 9:30 on Thanksgiving night and into the morning hours the next day, we were exposed to a toxic cocktail that included chemicals and heavy metals. And one thing that's especially difficult about heavy metals is they don't get diluted. They're there. When something like this happens, the refinery is supposed to notify us. It's the law. And we have things in, I just moved to Martinez last year. And one Wednesday around 11 o'clock, there was this great, huge siren that went off. And I didn't know what it was. And it is, in fact, an alarm that goes off. And it's our warning system. It tests our warning system. That didn't go off in this situation. And the refinery did not contact the health department to let them know what was going on. The notification is something that's supposed to happen by law. And that, as much as anything else, is a concern. The hazmat team learned about it all on Saturday as a result of people posting on Facebook. What's wrong with this picture? As it turns out, they immediately went to work. They immediately started collecting samples, trying to figure out what was going on. They contacted the refinery. The refinery said that they didn't, at least as of the town hall, they said they didn't realize that it had affected the community. But even if they didn't think it affected the community, they should have notified the health department. That's their obligation. That's their legal obligation. And at no time did they initiate a response. And people in my area are really up in arms about this. They had told the health department that in their initial review of what was emitted, that it was they collected what they said were non-toxic materials. And their remediation was offering people a chance to get their car washed for free at the local car wash, Autotopia. And parenthetically, although it shouldn't be parenthetical, I guess, I've wondered, because I live about half a mile from Autotopia, I thought, I hope that they told those people that they were cleaning up toxic waste. Because in the Contra Costa Health Department said it should not be aerosolized. That means going through a car wash, it automatically becomes aerosolized. They should have been wearing gloves. They should have been wearing masks. So there wasn't any level of community transparency about what happened. And as it happens, fortunately, Contra Costa Health Department did their own testing and of the samples that they took. And what they found were high levels of aluminum, barium, chromium, nickel, vanadium, and zinc. And in those, in that kind of exposure, it can lead to respiratory problems. Even short-term, it can lead to respiratory problems, bronchitis, upset stomach, nausea, and longer-term exposure to those heavy metals can lead to serious health problems. Respiratory, I have advanced heart disease, so I was very concerned that I found myself coughing and coughing for weeks. I can only imagine how people with young children felt and worried about their, very young children especially. So to find ourselves in this situation where we've been exposed to toxic chemicals that are not likely to leave our system, and to not be notified is very frightening. We're frightened, we're angry, and we want to do something about it. To quote Contra Costa Health, MRC's failure to follow notification procedures cost us critical time we could have used to warn the public and reduce risks in the community. It's unacceptable. Following that, less than 2 weeks later, on December 9th, there was an extreme flaring incident at the refinery, bringing flares close to the road and shaking nearby houses. People who were close by said my house, there was like a roar and it was shaking. The Contra Costa Health Department responded immediately, put out notifications on social media. But again, MRC did not sound any kind of alarm for people. They basically undersold the seriousness of the problem, but I think that you would be hard pressed if you were somebody who lived close to the refinery to say that it was not a big deal. I think, probably some of you already saw that the refinery blamed the flaring on December 9th on raccoons. They also own a refinery in Torrance, and when there were dangerous flares down there, they also blamed it on raccoons. You can't make this up. It's outrageous. So I'm going to share with you a few things, and so I can share on this. Yes. The screen share is disabled.
Cecilia, can you make Jillian a co-host?
Okay.
You should be able to now, Jillian.
Great. Thank you so much. And let me put it on. Just a second. So let me get this set up. Okay. Okay. Now, there we go. Okay, can you read it? Can you see it now?
No, actually, it looks like your sharing went away.
Okay.
Do you want to share it again?
I will share it again. Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
We can't see anything yet.
I don't know why this is. I do this all the time. Okay, there we go. That should do it. Okay. You see now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the timeline, just to give you a sense of what happened. So the catalyst was spent on 24th, which was Thanksgiving, and it didn't stop until the next day. And at that point, people started putting things on Facebook. As soon as the Contra Costa Health Department found out, they reached out through social media. One of the concerns that I personally, and I think a lot of people have, is why is the only notification going out social media? There are a lot of people who aren't on Facebook, and there needs to be a way to notify people broadly when something like this happens. The hazmat team immediately collected samples, and that was really great. And then they sent materials to the lab. And by the 29th, which was 5 days later, we had the 72-hour report. You would think that the 72-hour report would have been on the 27th, but it came on the 29th, and Contra Costa Health issued a press release. At that point, I'll show you some of the findings. Following that was a flaring event that I described. Our new Martinez mayor, Brianne Zorn, has an environmental background. She's been fantastic through this. She called a town hall that was attended by more than 300 people on December 14th. And there was a hazmat team meeting on the 12th of January, which was hosted and chaired by John Gioia, and had a lot of public comment there as well. And then on the 14th, there was a green light to do an independent investigation. So let me tell you what some of the concerns are. The immediate and long-term concerns are from the Thanksgiving incident, although it goes beyond that. These accidents, especially the spent catalyst accident, subjected all of us in the community, to heavy metals that sent some people to the hospital and has left the entire community frightened and angry. There are concerns mostly about health and safety, but also what it does to home values and community reputation and trust. The Contra Costa health officials at the town hall recommended that people with any symptoms see their physician. They also recommended that people should have their soil tested, and said they should not eat anything from their garden until that was done. You can imagine the impact this would have on the community. It doesn't even consider the impact on schools and parks and public areas. But so many people garden. So many people rely on their garden, and they're told, you shouldn't use it. And unless you have the soil tested and it's shown to be clear. More than 300 community members spoke passionately about their concern about the incident and their distrust of the Martinez Refinery. They had questions about who will pay for the soil to get tested, who will pay for their soil to be replaced, how should they get medical expenses incurred to be covered, and it went on and on and on. This is an issue that everybody knows is not going away. MRC told attendants to contact them with health issues, but didn't discuss how to deal, that was one-off. They didn't discuss how to deal with this community-wide, and it's a huge issue. They said they're doing their own internal investigation, but the county is doing an independent one, which is fortunate, especially given the history where they initially said that they were non-hazardous emissions, and then the health department found, in fact, they were very hazardous and very high levels. What we find here is that so people are concerned about their health, short and long term. They're also the distrust is there, and the most important thing at this point, beyond the health and safety, which have to be ensured, is transparency. There is so little trust of the refinery at all. So a little background on PBF, which is the owner of the refinery. PBF and Chevron are currently suing the Bay Area Quality Management District over a new rule designed to reduce pollution. And ironically, they are part of what they are suing about would have been something that would have related to the spent catalyst incident. If they had been in compliance, this probably would not have happened. They claim that the cost of the wet gas scrubber, which is a piece of machinery that is the industry standard, would be cost prohibitive for the refinery. But without it, we run the risk of having these incidents again. They own a refinery in Torrance that has similar safety issues. And recently it's been opened up that there may be a class action suit against the refinery. And we are, our small group right now is exploring what we can learn from that citizens group that has brought this together, and from the citizens group in Benicia, which has also had to deal with Valero. We've also been talking with the people who have been working in enrichment, because as John Gioia knows more than anybody here, they have to deal with this on a regular basis too. So I think it's very disingenuous for them to say that they can't afford this. They have record profits. Their net income attributable to stockholders was at 1.06 billion, or $8.40 a share for the 3 months into September 30th. And a year ago, it was 59.1 million, or 49 cents per share. My own personal editorializing would say that that's a result of price gouging. But regardless, what we have here is an industry that seems to have nothing but money. They certainly have more money than concern, and they can afford to make this refinery safer. You know what, they bought the Torrance refinery in 2016, and they have continued to run up fines. And they ran up 50,000 in fines in December alone for excessive flaring. And the fact is that it's cheaper for them to run up fines than it is for them to take care of the problem. But however expensive it is for them to take care of the problem, it's much more expensive in the health and well-being of our community. So what are we doing? Next steps. So Contra Costa Health is launching an independent investigation. The Oversight Committee is composed of county health personnel, City of Martinez personnel, MRC management and union representatives, and 5 community members. The 5 community members are being selected by Federal Glover, and we are working to get people who are interested in being on that oversight committee. The oversight committee ostensibly is 1 hour, one meeting a month. That's probably about 3 hours, but it's also doing research and preparation for that meeting and a lot of background work. So, we're hoping to get some people who are really committed to that on that committee. In addition, Contra Costa Health is conducting a special audit of MRC instead of waiting for 2024, which is the next one that would be on schedule. They usually do it every 3 years, but given the circumstances, they are in the next month or so doing an audit of the refinery. The last audit identified 5 deficiencies and 23 partial deficiencies. At the hazmat meeting, there was discussion of, at this point, somebody had said that they had potentially identified 20 violations so far. They're looking at, they're also working to see if any regulatory standards have been violated and continuing to work out what are the root causes, because if we don't know what caused it, it can't be preempted. And I know that that beyond what caused it is underlying a lot of this is still the communication problem. People are not hearing about this from the refinery. In fact, they said in the town meeting, well, if something's happening, you just give us a call. And I know many, many people have reached out to them and they've been ghosted. So that's a problem. So the Martinez Refinery Company accountability work that the people I've been working with have been engaged in, there's some things that we're looking at as next steps. One of the most important, the most urgent, the most short-term is that we are asking people to contact DA Becton to prosecute the Martinez Refinery to the full extent of the law. There is anybody who's on Facebook can access the call to action that was produced by Sunflower Alliance. It's on the Sunflower site. It's on the Facebook groups, Indivisible Central Contra Costa County, and also on Together We Will. And basically it's just telling her we need to have this prosecuted. It's too big a deal to let it go. People have a sense of the refinery is such a big player in our community, and they are, but that they don't outweigh the health and well-being of the people and the environment here. So that would be an ask that I'd ask of you. We're also looking at, we're having to figure out who to go for what. So we're looking at Cal EPA, Cal OSHA, because they look into how the things are for workers. When it first happened, I and others reached out to John Garamendi and Mark DeSaulnier and have worked within their offices. We'll go back to them when we know what our ask is. We're still figuring out, honestly, who to ask for what. And the first step is for Diana Becton, for Dinah, to prosecute. Hopefully she will. Beyond that, we'll, potentially going to Attorney General Bonta. That is something that the Torrance community group has done successfully. And then at the national level, looking at the EPA and underlying it, a potential class action suit. So if you want more information, if you're on Facebook, there's the MRC Accountability Group. If you go to that and you ask to be a member, that's all you have to do. And Sunflower Alliance has a Facebook page and a Facebook presence, as well as a Twitter presence. You can reach out to Alicia Gade. Here's her Gmail address. And then on the web, Sunflower Alliance is, as I said, been working with us, has been invaluable in helping us navigate these waters, and Refinery Watch, which has worked with, I think, both Benicia and Torrance. But we're looking to work with groups who have been able to make a difference from the grassroots, because it's too important. We can't let this slide. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to share this information. And I know I used to go to your meetings in person, so I know how far it is from San Ramon to Martinez, or to Richmond, or to Crockett. But we're all part of the same county. And I think that, when you look at air blows and water flows, and we're all in this together. So I really hope that you'll reach out. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks. Shoshana, did you have anything to add?
Wait a second. I think we're going to hear from our supervisor, John Gioia. Is he still here?
I'm here.
Oh, good. I was on this wonderful meeting where is that the one where we had 300 people make comments about this, John?
I know I was at the Industrial Safety Ordinance Committee where we had a lot of people. There was also, as you know, that meeting in Martinez that the city and the mayor held. And I know there were a lot of people there. So I think we probably had less people, Brodie, at our ISO committee than the city had, but there are probably a lot at both.
There were a lot of folks. It wasn't the 300 we got at the town hall.
Right.
Okay. John, would you like to make some statements?
Sure. First, thanks, Jillian, for summarizing much of that. Good complete information. I don't want to repeat the things that she said, so maybe I'll just fill in other things. I've been involved with these issues now for the 24 years I've been on the board. Both from the standpoint of Chevron and Phillips and the old Tesoro and Tosco and Shell. I mean, different names, different owners, but the same sets of issues. And I will say the one thing that Contra Costa has going for it, and we have the strongest local safety ordinance in the country that was adopted way back in 1999. It was like my first year on the board, and it was something that was led at the time by Supervisor Mark DeSaulnier, now our Congress member. And in fact, when the U.S. Chemical Safety Board was involved investigating the Chevron fire in 2012, they said that we had the strongest local safety ordinance, and they actually made recommendations to strengthen our ordinance coming out of their recommendations of the Chevron fire, and we did make those changes. And Richmond adopts the same ordinance. Our ordinance applies to the 3 refineries in the unincorporated areas, and then Richmond adopts our ordinance, and our hazmat department enforces it in Richmond for Chevron. And it covers also some chemical plants. We actually, our Industrial Safety Ordinance Committee, which is Supervisor Glover and myself, have made a recommendation to expand the ordinance to include some of these tank farms that are not located on refinery grounds. The tank farms at refineries are covered, but not like the separate ones like New Star, where the major explosion and fire occurred. So we'll be getting a report at our next committee meeting about how our ordinance will get expanded to cover those. And I did talk with Mayor Zorn and Martinez, who definitely has really been interested and up on these issues, and she's exercised good leadership. She's talked about maybe Martinez enacting our ordinance, which would cover a couple of industrial chemical facilities in Martinez that are not currently covered. So that's good news. And this ordinance gives us the ability to do these root cause analysis, as well as recommended at our Industrial Safety Ordinance Committee, is to do also this community-wide risk assessment. And there is the ability to have, as Jillian mentioned, the custom is a community oversight committee that oversees those reports, and that's been done with Chevron, as Shoshana knows. And just to acknowledge Shoshana from my district out in West County, who's been a great leader on these types of issues as well. So as you know, the county recommended to the district attorney to pursue prosecution. My time on the board, it is very rare to have a major release like this that does not get reported. So this was really bad. And this was, there's sometimes smaller releases that they don't, but generally we're getting reporting and timely. There's always an issue about how fast. So maybe I'll amend that. Sometimes there's been a delay, but in this case, it was like multiple days. And I don't recall that happening in my time on the board. So it was a very serious violation because it doesn't give a chance for the county health department to possibly inform the community, because right now there's a requirement in place where facilities are to inform the county of incidents that are happening at their facility. And of course, the one thing, the Air District does also respond. I serve on the Bay Area Quality Management District, and they respond as well as county hazmat. And there is an ongoing investigation by the Bay Area Air Quality Management District as well as the county. So those two entities are doing an investigation. Whether or not the U.S. Chemical Safety Board does an investigation is unclear. They usually are, they do not choose many incidents to investigate. They investigated the Chevron fire. They will monitor and determine if they investigate. But I am I am I'm confident in the Contra Costa Hazardous Materials folks to do an investigation that is thorough. And one thing I will note about fines and penalties, the Air District has sponsored bills several times to increase the state maximum on fines and penalties. And it's not a surprise that the business community has opposed those bills and defeated them. I mean, Buffy Wicks has carried, Lonnie Hancock, Nancy Skinner. So it's like multiple legislators over the years, and these bills get defeated because the Air District would like to have higher limits on the maximum penalties, and that is problematic that we don't have those higher limits. So there likely will be fines and penalties, but not generally as high as I think the public interest dictates, really, to really discourage. And Jillian made reference to our new rule. It's Rule 6-5 that we passed at the Air District last year. That is the toughest rule in the country on reducing pollution, particulate matter pollution, from what's called a fluid catalytic cracking unit, an FCCU unit. The two refineries in the county that are covered by that are the Martinez Refinery and Chevron. The other refinery in Martinez, Marathon, that's converted to this renewable fuel facility, and then Phillips, which will be as well, wouldn't be covered because they wouldn't have such a unit, FCCU unit. So those two refineries are covered by our rule. Valero and Benicia already has a wet gas scrubber to limit their releases of particulate matter from the FCCU unit. And yes, as Jillian noted, the two refineries have sued the Air District on that rule, and that litigation is ongoing right now. What else was I going to mention? I don't want to repeat, the bad stuff that came out of that facility. I will say that there's been great, I think, great leadership in the community in Martinez. I'm used to seeing this happen in Richmond, and Richmond has a very good, active community that also is involved, and a release like this does coalesce a community, and Martinez folks have clearly been concerned, as they should. The only other thing I'll say is the whole issue of prosecution. I think, while we've asked the district attorney, they have the independent prosecutorial power. I think we've all expressed to the DA that the need for prosecuting, and there have been some previous prosecutions, but not as often as we would like to see, and hopefully there will be one in this case. So those are sort of some general comments about it. By the way, I did want to thank also Moms Demand Action, just to acknowledge their work. I know we've passed some gun control measures in the past at the county, and I did want to also acknowledge a good friend, Janet Abelson, who passed away, who was a really great advocate on transportation equity, disability rights, seniors, and she'd been in failing health. Just saw her a few weeks ago at a community celebration of her career, and so it's sad loss for all of us, not just in West County, but in the whole county.
John, I see one question. Maybe you could answer it.
Sure.
Ellis, would you like to ask your question?
I hear fines and penalties, which are only passed on by corporations to their customers. Handcuffs are what's needed. That's my wife laughing. Is there any talk, and I'll speak to Dinah Beckman about it too, of criminal penalties for the person who decided not to inform the public? It has to be somebody who's the boss who said, we're not sending out any kind of indication. that person deserves handcuffs. My opinion. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think there are cases where you can have criminal liability, and I'm sure the DA will investigate all of those things. Oftentimes, you know, it's the district attorney can successfully prosecute and get greater fines and penalties in addition to the air district, but there can be some criminal culpability, but it generally has to rise to probably a higher level of intentional actions or things like that. I don't know the criminal law in that area. I'm sure that's something the district attorney will look at. What are the possible statutes that she can prosecute this under? But I mean, you know, you're right in that generally these fines and penalties, if you could look at their profits, end up being while they may seem like a lot of money to us, they're not necessarily a lot of money to the big oil companies. And I think that is an issue. So hopefully, I'm sure the DA, we have a good DA, I'm sure she will look at all the possible avenues she can pursue.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you for being here. Do you have any other comments or things about the county that you want to talk about?
Well, I can look like there may be some other questions. I don't know if they're on this issue.
Oh, right.
Okay. I see other hands.
Charles.
Since I'm here,
Hottinger.
right?
Yes, I'm sorry, Charles Hottinger.
The tank fields. I'm down from the Pacific Northwest recently, and they've decided that outside Portland, the tank fields are an extreme seismic risk. They're on poorly consolidated soil, and everybody's worrying about not the San Andreas fault, but the Cascadia subduction zone fault. And I was wondering, has there been a seismic evaluation of the risks involved with the tank fields?
I mean, that issue has come up in some of the discussions I know at the committee, and I know our building department is looking at the issues at New Star. Yeah, I have not heard that there's been an analysis of every facility, I know that under the industrial safety ordinance, that refineries have to are required to really go through what's called a process hazard analysis to reduce the risks of their operations. And of course, that one of those risks would involves damage from seismic events. I'll have to follow up on how the analysis occurs on the refineries with regard to that under the process hazard analysis. I mean, it's a good question. With New Star, that issue was raised, and I think would come up in any of the building department reviews, because I don't believe they've completed a review of that.
Yeah. Now, the Hayward Fault is a good candidate for a severe shake in the area there. And I know in Portland, people are very, very concerned.
Right. Yeah.
Good question, Charles. Nancy, would you like to ask a question?
Yes. John, you had mentioned community risk assessment. Would that be also inclusive of blood samples of people who have been exposed to either a dramatic exposure like this or chronic exposure? In our community, Crockett, before Thanksgiving, we collected this glittery particulate matter that was kind of baked in the yellow film that we've been noticing since the biofuel refinery project at Phillips 66 has started. And we also had it analyzed at the same lab, had the same test done, and our numbers are even higher than Martinez. So I'm concerned that chronic exposure, as a previous speaker said, chronic exposure can lead to serious health problems. In talking to a doctor at Kaiser who is in charge, I believe he's in charge of the Department of Toxicology at South Sac. He said, yeah, chronic exposure to heavy metals can lead to death.
Yeah, I know it's a community health risk assessment. I'm trying to pull up the scope of it. I can tell you that it's a community exposure / risk assessment of Martinez Refining. I'm gonna just look up what if there's a defined scope. Actually, one of the advantages of having a community oversight committee is that oversight committee can suggest the scope of that review to include more things. So I think that's a good point for the community oversight group to suggest. I mean, I haven't been, if it was in my district, I'd be more involved. It's in Supervisor Glover's district. And I know that, again, it's listed as a community, health risk of the facility. It's generally, so it's a broad review. And I think that, I think the oversight committee can ask for there to be a review of the issues you mentioned. Now, I've heard that there are a number of residents who want to have their soil tested. I think they should have their soil tested. And I think that may be an issue that gets raised as well. And to have the refinery do that kind of testing. I think that's a reasonable request for sure.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, and just generally maybe related, to this, the county is in the midst of doing a major general plan review, update of our general plan, which hasn't been done in 30 years. And it is including new policies on environmental justice, on health, on sustainability, on economic development, those 4 areas. So, and it is really going to be strengthened in terms of, I think, environmental and environmental justice policies. It will have, I know that our committee, our sustainability committee, Supervisor Glover and I have made a number of recommendations on the environmental justice policies. I know Shoshana on the Sustainability Commission and her colleagues have as well. So I think that there's going to be more updates on that. You may want to get an update on that. It affects only unincorporated areas, but that's still relevant. Of course, you have unincorporated areas in the San Ramon Valley as well. So that's a major thing going on at the county, is that general plan update. One of the things that we're focusing on this year, I'm the chair again of the board, and really trying to make health and equity a theme. The last time I was chair, or the time before, maybe this is my 6th time as chair, I made sustainability a focus. And coming out of that, we created a sustainability commission, the sustainability committee of the board, and a sustainability officer. So all those came out of that. This year, we're establishing an office of racial equity and social justice, with the director to be appointed by the board of supervisors. And we created a new equity committee of Supervisor Glover and myself to oversee that. And we had a community process over a year leading up to recommendations to us about how to set up this committee. We felt that was important, is to have the community really make those recommendations. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be really important. For us, we're also, implementing the programs that are funded out of the new Measure X sales tax. Thank you for the support of that. To think that we passed a new sales tax for county government, health and social services and things like that during the pandemic, I think shows, that people placed a value on local government, on county government. And one of the things that we're establishing this year is a new mental health crisis response system, where in a year from now, if we're successful in hiring all the behavioral health specialists we need, people will be able to get a response within 10 to 15 minutes if you call 211, 911, with or without law enforcement response. Because sometimes law enforcement is not needed. There may be times where they are needed, but the idea is having a professional behavioral health, culturally competent response, and our Measure X money is paying for that. There is some funding to a pilot project that the San Ramon Valley Fire District is going to do with regard to that as well. We also are funding, in addition to the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice, we're funding family navigator positions at a number of schools where there's a large percent of low-income families to help them access services. There's more money for early childhood development, things like that. So, but I just wanted to highlight those areas. You probably heard a lot about reopening fire stations in East County and in Pinole, which is a good thing because of quicker emergency medical response and fire response. There's also money for increased vegetation control. You're in some areas that are subject to wildfire risk out there, just like in the East Bay Hills, and so there's actually $4 million a year for that type of work. Which I think is really important. We're putting $12 million a year into a housing trust fund for very affordable housing. And for example, we're using the fund to close the financial gap after getting state funds to build a 54-unit housing project in San Pablo, which is their 300 square foot units and they're for previously unhoused individuals, and they have supportive services on site. So, we use some money to buy a Motel 6 in Pittsburgh, convert that to housing. So we're really focusing on building more very extremely affordable and subsidized, affordable, small unit affordable housing with supportive services on site. I just got off of a couple of hours. I'm on the California State Association of Counties executive committee, and our state association getting an update on it. We've had a work group to develop a proposal to the state and work with the League of Cities so that the state, cities, and counties all have much more specifically defined roles on addressing the unhoused population. There is very little clarity on everyone's roles. The money is not particularly well focused, and there needs to be more state investment. So we're focusing both at the county level and state level on this. I think really one of the highest priorities because of the real growth. I was actually out yesterday at 5:30 in the morning for our point in time count. We're counting the number of unhoused individuals in the county. So other things happening at the county. I think I do think that and this issue comes up, I'll just say this, I know you're good Democrats from the San Ramon Valley, is I do think, our county government is a social safety net. And sometimes we hear from residents in certain parts of the county, including parts of the San Ramon Valley, are we getting, are we getting county services here? Yes, in addition to library and animal services. I mean, yes, we do a lot of health and social services, and it is true that there's probably less use of health and social services in many of the higher income communities in the San Ramon Valley than there are in some other parts of the county. But I view that this is a community, right? That's the idea that that our whole county, when everybody in our county does better, we all do better. And so it is about equity and closing disparities. And so I always find it interesting, even in my own district, there's communities that say, are we getting everything that we're paying? And the reality of large county government is I think every single part of the county benefits from county services, and some use certain types more than others. And I'll give an example. I mean, so while you may get less health and social services because there's not as great of a need, San Ramon is one of only 2 cities that actually has 2 libraries in its city. So it gets funded from the county for 2 libraries, and there are communities, that. So you could argue from an equity standpoint, is that fair that that San Ramon actually gets more funding for libraries than some other cities with greater needs because you have 2 libraries. But so, I mean, I think there are all of those types of differences and issues around the county. And I appreciate, that you all understand equity and the importance of these services. And I want to thank you. I know 2 years ago, you endorsed my former chief of staff and a longtime staff person in my office, Luz Gomez, great person who lives in San Ramon, she's back now working for our county health department and doing a lot of really good work. And unfortunately, she lost by just a few votes against a 16-year incumbent. But, so I appreciate all of your advocacy on so many things. It's important to have your advocacy on issues.
Thank you so much. I wanted to ask you real quick, can I find, like, when I was trying to write down notes about the general plan, is that on the website?
Yes. So what you do is go to Contra Costa, Envision Contra Costa 2040, and everything is there. And you'll see community profiles and proposed general plan changes for all the unincorporated areas. So like for Alamo and Blackhawk, out in the valley, or the Saranap unincorporated Walnut Creek area, you'll see that information. There's a lot of really good information there.
Envision Contra Costa.
Yeah, I think, in fact, what I would do is if you just Google and you put Envision Contra Costa 2040.
Oh, 2040. Okay.
2040. I'm doing it now.
Okay.
Envision Contra Costa, actually their website is envisioncontracosta2040.org. Oh, and Shoshana would be upset with me if I didn't also acknowledge that this effort also updates our climate action plan, because I know the Sustainability Commission's working on that as well. We did pass, Supervisor Glover and I at Sustainability, had recommended, and the Sustainability Commission was involved in this, the passage of an ordinance that requires all new construction, or almost all new construction, to be all electric. That passed our board on a 4-to-1 vote. I mean, your supervisor voted against it, but it passed otherwise. And so it really does, I think, help set a tone in terms of electrification. And this is happening statewide. I used to serve on the California Air Resources Board, and I see what's happening at the state level. That is the direction we're all going. Hopefully that'll be in the new building code, but in the meantime, we've passed it sooner. The air district that I serve on is working on a rule to look at eventual appliance replacement rule that would focus on water heaters being replaced, all water heaters being replaced with electric water heaters instead of natural gas. And as someone that's working on it in my own home, which is, it takes time, I will say, I'll put a plug for them. There's a new water heater product out. It's an electric heat pump water heater. They're very efficient, that runs on a 120 volt, 15 amp circuit, not a 220 volt, 40 amp circuit. So that is a big game changer, because as we look at rules to require retrofit, that makes it much, much more affordable, where you don't have to do all these electrical upgrades, because you can run it on a 15 amp circuit at 120 volts. That's a big deal. So there are my sense is the technology is happening. I know people say, where is this going? The technology is there. The infrastructure of upgrading homes is always going to be an issue. And I think that's the issue to sort out. And how do we help provide funding for low to moderate income families to do these things? So there's some rebates available now, and I know, all an issue, and hopefully you can get all your cities in your area to pass a similar ordinance. I don't know where I don't think San Ramon and Danville or Walnut Creek have passed those types of ordinance yet, or if they may be working on them. I don't know, but those are all really important. The other thing I will say, given that you have, a lot of sort of, large business centers in San Ramon, one of the things we're doing is really moving toward, we've already done this on a couple projects in North Richmond, is requiring developments to utilize zero emission electric truck fleets. We're doing that. There's a new FedEx warehouse being built in North Richmond, and we've put in place the fastest transition to zero emission trucks in a fleet anywhere in the country, where on day one, a third of their fleet has to be zero emission and 100% by year 5. So, I mean, the idea that if you're going to have places with lots of diesel trucks, there's an ability in a new development to require them to, have this, have to have some zoning and general plan policies, but to require them to be zero emission.
I just got a text from someone, and they don't want to ask the question but the question has something to do with the community flooding, and does the county maintain the watersheds?
Yeah, so we have a flood control district. Interesting you mentioned, because I just had a meeting with our flood control district about some of this. The county has a very underfunded flood control district. That does work on drainage and those issues with watersheds. And there's a great map that shows all the watersheds in the county. And that is an ongoing issue. Both stormwater and flood control issues are totally underfunded. And this is an area, one of the things where, getting more funding, I think, would be very valuable, because it really also can address, in the coastal parts of the county, sea level rise issues, but and also cleaner stormwater runoff into the bay. And right now, the stormwater fee that's collected is set, and you have to go to the voters to increase it, which is really difficult to do. So our flood control zones and stormwater in every city has their own stormwater program, are all underfunded because of Prop 218. So, I used to be on the East Bay Mud Board before I got on the Board of Supervisors. And when Prop 218 was done, it exempted water and wastewater agencies from going to the vote. Can you imagine if East Bay Mud or your Dublin Center Ramon Services District had to go to the voters every time to increase their rates when their costs went up? Well, they don't have to, but stormwater and flood control agencies do. And so that's the problem, is you have to go to the voters to get increases in those fees.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. Okay, thank you so much, John. Thank you for being here and sharing all about our county. That was quite a lot. And
many times, a lot going on. County government's a great place, and any issue there is, we touch. And so that's really thank you. And I always appreciate having advocacy groups like yours is important all over the county, right? Because I always get accused, this is only an issue they're raising in West County. Like when we were dealing with trying to do more oversight of the sheriff's department, it's like sheriff and others said, this is just Richmond and West County. But there are people all over the county, for example, that wanted, greater oversight of the sheriff's department. And when you do that, when you speak up on that, it is important. It makes a difference. And it makes your supervisor realize that this is just not an issue in Antioch or Concord or Richmond, or, that some of these issues are important everywhere.
Thank you. And I want to turn real quick to Katie Rickliffs, who is our chair of the Democratic Party of Contra Costa County. And she wanted to say a little bit about the county.
So I'll take leave. Thanks.
Thank you, John.
I'm still at my office. I want to go home. So, okay. All right. I'll see ya. Bye.
Well, thanks, Brodie. I'll just try to be brief with all of you. It's just nice to be with you. I appreciate being here, and I wanted to give you just a few highlights, maybe, of what we accomplished together in 2022, and just a little bit of looking forward. We were really successful as a county in 2022 in our elections, and your club, all the clubs were instrumental. I'd say San Ramon Valley was very, very instrumental in those successes. So, it started in the primary where we got our DA reelected. That was a really big and important win. And now in the fall of this year, we got Ken Carlson elected. That was another huge goal and a really big win for us. But just really quickly, in this past election, together we distributed over 100,000 door hangers throughout the county, and we mailed over 84,000 slate cards, and we sent over 270,000 texts just in Contra Costa by volunteers working together. We had 6 coordinated walks on 2 separate Saturdays. San Ramon was a major center for that. So Sabina, Marisol, your club, everybody came together. We even got Rusty Hicks, the chair of our state party, to come to San Ramon. And it's one of very few local elections that he appeared for. So you guys should feel really, really proud. We also had some very interesting, what shall I say? We tuned up our ability to communicate with our voters very quickly. And I'll just give you one example. You know, in Ken Carlson's race for Board of Supervisors in District 4, we found out at, I think this was around 11 o'clock on a particular day, that his opponent, Deborah Allen, you remember, had put out some, a flyer that actually had our, like, Contra Costa Democrats in our font, our color that we use, support Deborah Allen. And it was mailed to all, you know, the voters in that district. We got hold of that at 11 o'clock in the morning. By 3 o'clock, we had sent a text out to all the Democratic voters in that district saying, this is wrong, this is a fake, here's our endorsed candidate. So it was very impressive that we could do that. You know, sometimes you think we're a big behemoth, and we're actually quite nimble. So I give a lot of credit to Becca Barrett and her husband and others. Just, we really came together. We also had two very, very close races. I'm sure you read about, maybe you even participated in that vote count. You know, in Richmond, it was a tie, an absolute tie with Cesar Zepeda and his opponent. And in Antioch, it was 3 points apart for Tamisha Walker Torres. So both of those had recounts, spent a lot of money. Our members showed up and provided constant support, and our candidates won in the end again. I also want to acknowledge one of your own, and that's Cecilia Manalga. Cecilia led our efforts. Yeah, she deserves way more than applause. She deserves so much, and she's gotten accolades from the National Democratic Committee. Nancy Pelosi even, you know, came. So we have a star amongst our ranks. And I just want to quickly say that in CD22 canvassing, 40,000 doors were knocked. I know Cecilia was there every weekend for months. Calls made, over almost 680,000 calls made. Conversations, over 22,000. This is people to people talking. I just, my gosh, Cecilia, you're just terrific. And we're gonna need it again in 2024, but she hails from your club, and you guys ought to just give her lots of kudos.
And we're just warming up, Katie.
Oh, good, oh, good. Yes, I know. So anyway, last Thursday, we had the elections for the county officers and the district directors, and 42 delegates that will go to the state convention. So I won re-election as your chair, and I'm very honored to do it. And I only would run for re-election because it's a great team of people, and we built some trust, we've built success, and I think we can really launch to even greater success if we do it together. Your district director is Katha Hartley. I think Brodie's announced all of this to all of you, but I'll just reiterate, former president for Rossmore. And I think Katha is going to rely upon a number of you, first and foremost, Brodie, to help her with the relationships in the San Ramon Valley. So I know you'll help her out. So of the 42 delegates, I just wanted to say that several, again, come from the San Ramon Valley Club, and probably Brodie has already told you this, but let me just clap my hands again. So we've got Richard Adler as a delegate, Brodie Hilp, Marisol Rubio, and Alex Rubio Talavera, along with Sarah Butler, Peter Erickson, Susan Hildreth, Renee Zeimer, and myself. So you've got some very good representation, and I'm sure that Brodie and Rick, Marisol, Alex will be communicating well with you. And on that note, I guess I would just say, please consider going even beyond San Ramon Valley Club in your volunteering. We really need help on we've got 15 committees, and I'm determined to have at least 2, co-chairs. So we're looking for 30 people to help out and do the fun work of engaging our voters and getting our great Democrats elected and really supporting good public policy. So we really need your help. And I'm committed to much greater communication. I think we've built that up a lot in the last couple of years, but we're going to do even better. And a stronger relationship with our clubs, because this is where the action is. I know that. I come out of the La Marinda Dem Club, and this is where it's at. I believe it in my soul. We also want to have greater diversity and inclusion. So I'm trying to embark on very specific plans and give the resources and the leadership so that we can move the dial on that and everybody can feel proud. So with that, that's kind of what's up at the county level. And I just thank you very, very much for everything you guys are doing, your leaders, in terms of activism and support. So thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katie, for being here and sharing.
You bet. You bet.
We're so happy you're chair again. You're wonderful as chair. So great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Next on the agenda, do we have Jovita Mendoza still here?
Hi, still here.
Oh, good. Thank you, Jovita. She is going to be speaking next about oil drilling in Brentwood.
Yeah, I send a big hug to Jillian all the way across the county. We're like on opposite ends, but I feel like we're just two sides of the same coin. I think it was the supervisor was saying we are all one county, and I think we forget that. But your struggle is our struggle and vice versa. So sending you all the best wishes that everything works out with you and your health and all of that. But I got involved in oil and gas drilling in 2020, and it was kind of happenstance. We accidentally found out that there was an application for 3 oil and gas drills 1,000 feet from homes here in Brentwood. So right up the street from me, it's in my neighborhood. And we didn't know what to do. And then we got, like right soon after, we got flyers on our doors. And it is a fantastic person that I don't know how this group does what they do and how this person does what she does, but it was Shoshana and her team. They came out to Brentwood and put flyers on all of the doors. Because I mean, I've never been involved in politics until then. I didn't know what to do. It was weird. So we partnered with the Sunflower Alliance and Shoshana, and we got really educated on the health impact of oil and gas drilling. And a little bit of history about Brentwood. Brentwood was an oil and gas field probably about over 30 years ago. And Shoshana, jump in if I'm giving misinformation because you're the expert. I was like the regular person living it and you're the expert. But they had big industry out here with oil and gas drilling. And then, they decided to build homes. So they invite us all out, build homes. And little did we know that my neighborhood was built on top of oil and gas, abandoned oil and gas wells. So they were decommissioned according to the laws at the time. And I now live right near it looks like a street light, but it's not a street light. It actually is exhaust from the oil and gas wells that are underground. So we didn't even know that when we moved here. Like, I don't ever remember anyone disclosing that information to us and telling us that we would have fumes for oil and gas from oil and gas wells. But so we find out that this is going on. We find out that actually they'd already installed 3 oil and gas wells down Deer Valley by Antioch, their city border, right by a high school. And it's a medical high school. And the county allowed it. They didn't do anything about it, which is actually very, very discouraging. So then we got together with the Sunflower Alliance and kind of worked with them. We created a Facebook page in 2020 to get information out, no drilling in Brentwood. But, I have to say, again, it's one county. We have people from all over the county on that page. We started email campaigns to the county. they said, when I called and spoke to the planner, she said she got more emails on this issue than anything else they'd ever gotten. So the scary thing is yeah, it hasn't passed, but it's almost, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shoshana, I feel like it's dormant. Like they didn't deny it, but they didn't issue it. So I feel like we're always like living in this limbo from the county. Like they won't say no and they won't say yes. I almost feel like they're just waiting for us to not pay attention, and then they will maybe authorize the permits. But the scary thing is that one of the companies funding it, so one of them is a local farm family that had farms and now they just want to get oil. And I think they do oil and gas, work in other parts of the state, but they're from here. But there's a company, Rebold, from Europe, and there's a video out there that says that East Contra Costa is prime for making money in oil and gas extraction. So it's pretty weird to be watching an investor call from someone in England talking about little East Contra Costa County. It was, that to me, that was shocking. Like I didn't know anything about that. But we mobilized, we got involved, we sent letters. There has been nothing on that right now. Our city actually has a gas pipeline that runs through it, and our residents don't want it going through anymore. Right now, it's on hold. We haven't renewed the partnership between this company and Brentwood. Antioch has actually denied it. What I'm finding, actually, I'm not newly elected, I'm 2 years elected. What I'm finding also being on this side is that different attorneys for different cities have different appetite for litigation, and some are risk averse and some are more like I say, like I like to play chicken. So, Antioch is, I have to say, they're very, very brave. They have a 5-member council that's very brave, and they said no. So they're holding off on that. But that line would be also used to take out more oil and gas from East Contra Costa and transport it. So I don't want to make that easy. I just don't. And the other scary thing is that line runs right in front of our high school. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Brentwood, but we have a new high school and a new junior high. The high school has, I don't know how many thousand students, but it's huge. And then the middle school is ginormous. And it also runs by an assisted living facility and homes. And if something were to happen, I would not be able to live with myself if something happened in front of the school. So I keep saying, I don't want it. I don't want it. And that's the excuse. That's not an excuse. That is the reason that I give. That I don't want it. So we're dealing with that. We right now have a moratorium on oil and gas drilling in Brentwood. Antioch, I believe, has a ban, right, Shoshana? They flat out banned it. Yep. I'm still working through my legal team at the city. Because of the Brown Act, I can only speak to one other person. So I can't go lobby my council people. They can just hear what I say at a meeting, but it makes it difficult. But we're working towards that. And I would say that, Jillian, we have a Facebook page, if you want to write call to action and then tell us what you need on there, just post it maybe, a couple times a week. I don't even care if you post it a couple times a week, because sometimes it takes a few impressions for people to get the idea, like, oh, wait, they really need me to write a letter. And I like Dinah Becton, I do. But out here, it's a different demographic, I will have to say. They were not as happy. So if you just say you want them to write a letter to Dinah Becton, they might do it just because they want her to fight something. So you never know, you might get some traction that way. But yeah, so that was our issue with oil and gas. I think it's always going to be an issue. I'm very disappointed that California last year, I think they issued, I don't know how many permits, but it's like a record-breaking number of permits, which I never thought I would see under Newsom's governorship. I have to say I'm very, very disappointed with him on the oil and gas front. I think I'm very disappointed with him on renewable energy. I don't know if we're just talking about having no more gas in our house, but starting in April, your solar rebate will now only be, I think, about 8 cents a kilowatt versus 30 cents a kilowatt. And I'm very upset with NEM. It's called NEM 3, the net metering 3. I don't understand why they would do that if they want us to get off of oil dependency, right? Oil and gas. It makes no sense to me right now why he would do that. I need to look at his donations, because I'd be interested to see how many entities that benefit from PG&E donated to his campaign. But I think that's something else this team should do. I would say for every single politician, whether it be city council or supervisors or state, always look up donations when you're going to speak at a city council meeting and tell them straight up to their face, I know you got X amount of money from this entity. And while I love unions, I was part of SEIU. My dad was a union worker his whole life. There's a couple of bills they've passed recently that I'm not very excited about. And I think we lose sight of, you're supposed to make life better for everyone, right? And there's a couple bills, and I know people in my party are gonna get mad, but now that I'm on this side, I'm seeing stuff I'm not very happy with. And we need to figure out a way to fix that also internally within our own party. And researching donations and just follow the money would be a big one. But we did that, and our mayor actually had taken a lot of money from the family with the oil and gas drilling. And the pressure, the public pressure of people knowing he took the money, and I think came into play for him supporting us. He didn't want to be seen as a person who got a pay to play. And it's difficult sometimes, especially when it's a politician you like, and you're disappointed in how the money influences their decisions. It's a hard thing, but you gotta do what you gotta do. I didn't take any money from anybody except for friends and family. I even got a check from a union and I returned it. I'm like, I don't want to be beholden to anybody when I'm making a vote except for my residents. And I think we actually just passed campaign reform in our city. You can't get more than $500 from a person during a campaign cycle, where the last 2 cycles, our mayor had gotten $20,000 from a home builder in each cycle. So, that's my story with oil and gas. Shoshana, I'm sure I missed a lot. So
yes, let's hear from, that was great, Jovita, thank you. Shoshana.
I want to say that Jovita always inspires me. Your passion and your willingness to get in there and scrap, it's really wonderful. I just want to add, because Jovita, you covered so much. I just want to add that, it's obvious from stories tonight that, Contra Costa County, as beautiful and verdant as it is, has also been a center of fossil fuel extraction and refining for well over a century. And just to circle back to what Jillian was talking about and what Nancy also mentioned, these refineries are over a century old. This is crumbling, ancient infrastructure. And they're going to be in play for a little while longer. We can't just get off of gasoline just like that. And, frankly, I just want to add a footnote here. Keep your eyes peeled for information about biofuels, stage 2, so-called renewable diesel. It's still refined. Its production still carries all the same problems that petroleum refining carried. And Nancy's community has been subject for several months to this glittering metallic residue that's falling from the skies and coating their windshields. And my little grassroots organization, of which Nancy is a part, decided to use wonderful donations from the public and apply it to several rounds of lab testing. And that lab testing showed very high concentrations of heavy metals. God forbid, right? And now Martinez. This is what the fossil fuel industry has brought to us, along with many wonderful things, right? So what about oil and gas drilling? Well, it turns out that East Contra Costa was actually a heyday of oil drilling in the 60s and 70s. And then it just kind of died out. Chevron and believe it or not, Exxon, they were both the 2 big players. They decided that it just wasn't worth it, and they shut down. What we have as a legacy are 273 plugged and abandoned wells, properly plugged, okay, which means they could still be leaking methane, right? I mean, the earth moves, they're plugged with cement, right? These wells can be reactivated at any time. And our oil and gas regulatory agency has just been rubber stamping the reactivation of wells all over the state. And it just happened in East County. I don't have time to tell you the story. or about the lawsuit that Sunflower filed against CalGem. But we're on it. But it's scary work, right? It's expensive. It's exhausting. You know, we're up against the beast here. Brentwood is once again under attack because this former apple farmer, Bob Nunn, wants to both develop houses and put in oil wells right next to them. Makes no sense. Here's the problem. He is developing oil wells on unincorporated county land, and our current general plan that John Gioia alluded to is the Bible. It's rather the Constitution that lays out general policy. Our general plan that's in place right now actually encourages the production of oil and gas.
Yeah.
So you might remember having seen me before this body before talking about our ban oil and gas drilling, new oil and gas drilling in Contra Costa. The whole focus of that campaign, which is going to start heating up again, so stay tuned, really is focused on revision of the general plan so that land use under the new general plan will not allow oil and gas drilling as legitimate land use activity, right? So that's where it goes. And the reason things have been quiet is because ultimately the focus is on the general plan. The section that deals with land use has been delayed. And it probably won't come back before the Planning Commission for a few months. What I'd like to talk with you about sooner than later, if Brodie will have me, is an effort to get our city councils all over the county to pass solidarity resolutions with Antioch, which has banned oil and gas, and with Brentwood, which we hope will follow suit. And it's going to take all of us to make sure that happens. And it's also going to take all of us to make sure that there is real justice for the people of Martinez, for the people of Rodeo and Crockett, for the people of Richmond. And I will leave it there. And thank you so much, Brodie, for bringing these stories into the room tonight. It's
thank you,
great.
Shoshana, for all your work. When do we need to get our city councils to do this? What's the time frame?
Well, I frankly, I kind of took off. I kind of decided to slow it down for the month of January, but honestly, I have to kind of kick myself into motion. But I think that I would say at the beginning of February, let's start thinking about it. And I have a nice model resolution, and really, it's up to all of you guys to take it to your city councils and hopefully get it into the consent calendar. That would be that would be super great.
If you're from Danville, raise your hand. I want to see if I have people help me. Okay, because Danville will be hard. But we will I will try. I will make a big deal. Okay, Lorinda. Okay, good. Danville. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Shoshana, and all your work at Sunflower. Definitely.
And one last plug, I mentioned to Brodie, just the other thing that I'm working on is land use and zoning. The state is taking over land use and zoning from cities and under the guise of creating more affordable housing. And over since 2016, actually our homeless situation has gotten worse because all of the bills have actually been promoting higher cost homes, and which actually benefits their donors, which I've looked at all of that. So what I'm working on is an initiative, ourneighborhoodvoices.com, where your city manage your land use and zoning. So it makes it easier to do things like this, where if you say no oil and gas drilling, the state can't get involved. If you say this section of my town has single family, this part has multi, this is what we want to do, the state can't get involved. So land use and zoning is a big deal. I don't think it's a one size fits all. And that's what we're fighting with ourneighborhoodvoices.com, is to get an initiative on the ballot for 2024, where you and your city decide what gets built where and what gets installed where, not the state.
Ooh, okay. Interesting. If you could put that link in the chat, that would be great. Our voices.
Ourneighborhoodvoices.com. Yeah. There's also another group you might be interested in, Livable California meets on Saturdays. And that's not my group, but I attend it. And they go over all like state bills, where before I was elected, I had no idea, but now they review bills. So now I feel like if there's something going on, I become aware of it before it gets too late. So there's groups that review bills that it might be something this team is interested in, also this group.
We have a good relationship with, so far, with our Assembly member, Rebecca Baracan. So
okay,
yeah,
good.
We could take it to her. So yes, okay. All right, that sounds good. Let's see, I have a long thing to talk about on the Concord Naval Weapons Base development, about their term sheet. I don't know if anyone here is that interested. Is there anyone interested that was going to go to the Saturday meeting? You are? Oh, Leslie, yes. Okay. Well, just to educate you, let me go through it as quickly as I can. Okay. So, and Leslie, just chime in if I get something incorrect. Okay. So there's the Concord Naval Weapons Base is really large, and now there's an idea of what we can do to make development. And first, the developer Lennar thought, oh, we can develop 500 acres of it. And the city negotiated with them, but then Lennar said, no, we're not interested. And so then they did a second term sheet that was negotiated with just a few members, 2 members of the Concord City Council and the developers, Concord First Properties, which is a consortium that includes the Sino family, Tagames Company, and Lewis Management. And we will discuss the Sino family next month. We have 2 speakers on that. But anyway, the new term would cover 2,275 acres, okay? Now, the estimated completion time would be 40 years, and it would be done in 5 phases, but it could be sooner, okay? I wanted to get the East Bay Housing Organization to get involved with the meeting tonight, but they were able to attend. So they sent me their term sheet. So they went through the term sheet of that Concord City Council, these 2 people from Concord City Council, and the developers made. And they said, wait a second, there's some things we want to change. And basically the idea is to turn down this new term sheet. Okay. Let's see, and I don't live in the area, but here it is. So back in 2012, the city and the stakeholders, the people that live there, gave their input, and they came up with the expected number of units and affordability and open space that they wanted. And they specified that they wanted 25% of the homes should be affordable housing, okay? So originally a total of 12,272 units were expected. So 25% of that would be 3,020. So that's 12,000 units, 3,000 were supposed to be affordable housing, okay? But the builder, this new developer, CFP, which includes Sino, wants to build 15,000, almost 595 units, okay? But keep the total of affordable ones to be 3,000. Okay, so 25% of that 15,595 is really 3,898, okay? So we take the 3,898 and subtract the 3,020, that was the original, you get, there's 879 extra units that would be affordable, that should be affordable, okay? But the builder doesn't really want to provide these 879 affordable units. What they decided, oh no, let's do junior accessory dwelling units. We'll have 879 junior accessory dwelling units called JADUs. And what they are is you take a regular single family home and they have this other separate dwelling on their land, and it would have to be designated that it would be affordable, and the people that would be renting would have to have an income below a certain amount, okay? And the deed of the person with the regular home would have this restriction that the units could only be rented to people below a certain income. Okay, that sounds okay, right? Well, no, because the city does not have the capacity to monitor 879 JADUs. They're being scattered all over. So the term sheet does not really offer any ideas that support the development of such capacity. There's lack of oversight. There's difficulty in renting these units, apparently. And so you think, you know, sometimes maybe the people that live in the homes are going to rent them, the people that aren't below the below the amount that they're earning more than they should. Plus, these units would be uniformly smaller than a regular housing unit, so it's not really suited for families. Okay, so we have a lot of problems. Then there's another problem. For this project, you need an affordable housing administrator. Who is designated as the administrator? Well, usually it's an outside person, okay? But in this case, the developer builder would be the administrator, and that should not be done. So a developer, especially for a for-profit one, should not be in charge of the competitive process to select other developers, as there's going to be a conflict of interest. Okay, then there's another problem. The most important phase is going to be the development near the transit. And that's where most of the affordable homes will be near the transit. But the North Concord BART may not be built for 10 years. So actually the most dense part of affordable housing is not going to be built for maybe 10 years. Okay, that's another problem. Let's see. Oh, there's another one. The term sheet with the city was negotiated behind closed doors. The city and the developer without the involvement of key stakeholders. Those are some of the reasons that we should reject the Concord City Council's term sheet of how this development should be. If you plan to attend the meeting on Saturday, January 28th, this Saturday, please vote, tell the council members to reject the term sheet. They're going to be voting on it, and I've from the communications I've seen, it might pass if we don't get involved. Cecilia, can you put all that information I have at the end in the chat? Okay.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Sure, of course. Yes. Is that Leslie?
No, this is Jovita from Brentwood.
Yes, no, yes, I'm done.
I think we're one of the only cities that's rejected a CINO development in many, many years. We rejected it at the beginning of my council run. And they're suing my city, and they're suing myself and Vice Mayor Susanna Meyer. And I will say if you look up, you can look up the case. I don't have the case number, but we have fared very, very well each round, and they keep appealing. The reason and I was talking to Brodie about this earlier, I'm not a legal person. I sell wine during the day. It is not my thing. And most council people, this is not our skill set. We want to serve, we want to do the right thing. But then your attorneys come in and go, well, you're going to get sued, and we're going to have to pay millions of dollars. So the best thing you can do is, if you have anyone that is a land use expert, to come in and really write out the case for them. And I have great residents in Brentwood. They're like, you can't do this, you can't do that. And the initiative, like this initiative that I'm on, I had people that are that have been on councils forever and understand land use. But the first thing I would say is, your zoning in any city is your Bible. Unless there is a state bill that allows them to change their zoning, you do not have to ever change zoning. So you can't, so for example, they could change the zoning if they come in with a density bonus, and that is a certain amount of affordable housing, they get extra units. So there's certain bills, and there's, I think, 70 bills they could choose to exercise. But if they're not exercising a bill, there is no reason why that city council should have to change their zoning. And that's the first and foremost thing I would say. But it's an emotional thing, and a lot of people come to us with emotional arguments, and that's fine. but your very first arguments should be anything that if you go to court, and I think we ended up with like 8 different points, like noise ordinances. We had them do a noise study before they even looked at agreeing anything, a traffic study. They wanted to put it near a freeway and there's fumes, and they want to put a park right near the freeway. So that kind of thing. But we had 8 different points. I can't remember all of them. Different council people had different reasons. And that means that this developer had to go to court and fight us on 8 points. So if you could give Concord 20 points, that's even better.
I think that the ask on Saturday is that they can let this thing is over in just a few weeks. All they have to do is not act on it in a few weeks, and then it's ended and the process will have to start again. So it's a very easy ask.
So yeah, one of your asks could say, let it die, and let them do town halls and negotiate with all of the residents and the council as a whole.
They have to start all over again. So that's if you want to go, the information's in chat and just make your comments known to the Concord City Council and let them know about all of this. That's, yes.
And email your council people today.
Yeah.
I don't live in the area, but Leslie, you do. So thank you for being here.
I do. And I'm a newly retired real estate lawyer living in Concord. And in the 80s, I was a redevelopment analyst for the city of Concord. So I know about the naval weapons site from way back, and it's very important. And this Brodie summarized the issue about the term sheet vote on Saturday very well, very succinctly, and any support in that regard would be really appreciated. If the city council doesn't approve the term sheet, then this development group doesn't have any rights to proceed to negotiate a development agreement, and it's back to the drawing board. It's an opportunity for the city council to be more thoughtful and do the right thing. I asked Brodie, reached out to her today because what I am looking for, and I would ask any of you or any interested Democrat in the county for the name of one or more people who could run on the Concord City Council. I'm in District 4. Districts are something that's new to Concord, relatively new. Eddie Burson is my council member. He voted for this development group that includes CNO. You know, people say he's in the pockets of not only CNO, but the Garaventas, who have a waste management district. We need somebody who's more thoughtful about the development of the city over the next 40 years, and who's an independent and progressive thinker. So I would ask all of you and anybody that you know to get a hold of me if there's somebody who lives in District 4 or would move to District 4 and run against Eddie Burson.
Leslie, why don't you run against him? You live in District 4.
I'm retired. I'm 65 years old. I'm willing to I'm willing to back up.
You have time.
You're not the first people that have asked that question. I would really like to see somebody younger who can be in that seat for many, many years and come up through the ranks. Maybe I've talked with Run for Something. They back up and help coach and mentor people a lot younger than me. Yes. to be in elective office, and I'd love to see that. Love to see a young person, maybe a person of color, be on the city council. So that's my pitch to you all. I can put my contact information in the chat.
we're not really from that area at all.
I would say that their council people don't know who lives where. You can send an email. You don't have to give where you live.
Oh,
you
sure.
Can,
on
Saturday,
speak at a meeting.
Yeah, you can speak at a meeting.
Yeah.
I spoke at the last meeting, Leslie, because they were saying comments about SB 9, and I'm like, they said there's analytics that prove so. Like, there's no analytics that say that.
No, and Susan Nakamura, District 5.
Laura Nakamura.
Laura.
Yeah, she's great. They're Obringer and Hoffmeister seem to listen, but I think we need a stronger bench on the city council.
We were sort of scared about Hoffmeister's vote on Saturday. So that's why we're asking people to get involved. Yeah. But yeah, we're very happy with Laura Nakamura that she was able to get on. And then what district is Dominic Aliano on?
5.
Okay, so that'd be another district because he was the other person that worked with Eddie Brisson.
That's right.
And these people are Democrats. I mean, I knew Eddie years ago, like 20 years ago, from the Democratic Party of Contra Costa County, and he wanted to get involved. And you know, we were rooting for him because he wanted to get involved, and he was a Democrat. And then he's doing this. It's just unbelievable.
It is.
Yeah. Well, thank you for talking. Thank you for that. And the information's in chat about how to do that on Saturday, or like Jovita was saying, you could email them too.
And I think it's on Zoom too. I mean, I had it on the background, and then when I just raised my hand while I was doing everything at home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a 6-hour Zoom meeting.
Oh, I got a lot of cleaning done, Leslie.
Don't tell people that. Let's see, Shoshana, are you still here? Do you want to give us an update about PG&E?
Oh, it'll be a really short one.
Yes, of course.
and before moving on to PG&E, I just wanted to say, just to draw all this stuff together, you know that Tagami, who is partnering with the Cinos in Concord, he is the baddie that is trying to export coal through the Port of Oakland.
Yes, right, yes.
Yummy.
Oh.
But I have some glad tidings that I can share. So maybe we can end on a really positive note. On Tuesday, and forgive the reading, but I got to do it at this hour. On Tuesday, the technical staff at the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission refused a request by PG&E to resume reviewing a 2009 license renewal application that the company formally withdrew from consideration in 2018. I mean, this is absolutely amazing. And just to recap some of this history, PG&E applied for a license renewal in 2009, and then in 2018, withdrew the application after finalizing plans to permanently close the Diablo Canyon facility. And then last September, Newsom and state lawmakers decided that, oops, we really do need that plant after all.
And this is a nuclear plant.
This is a nuclear plant. So I think probably everybody here remembers that huge catfight to close it. So it was very distressing that Newsom completely reversed that decision in September. And, you know, the whole decommissioning decision was very, 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 very lengthy and difficult. So the fact that now the Federal Nuclear Regulatory Commission has decided to deny the license extension is pretty wonderful. And yeah, so, you know, good stuff does happen. And I do want to add that, honestly, the staff was petitioned by, rather, San Luis Obispo, Mothers for Peace, Friends of the Earth, and the Environmental Working Group. And these 3 environmental organizations won. So it can happen.
That's wonderful. Yes, what a positive note. That was the Mothers, and can you put the organizations in chat? There's Mothers for
Sure.
Peace and
Oh, I can't send this to everyone though, but I can send it to you, Brodie, and then you can maybe.
okay, you can change the top. You change the stat to everyone in the meeting, but
No, I can't.
okay.
And
Oh,
if you want to send it to me, I will send it out.
oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, our chat.
It's just
only
going to
goes-
co-hosts. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Well, it sounds like they may try to reapply again. I mean, when I was reading that article, and it sounded like it may not be the end of things.
Oh no, it never is, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, after we get, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to all the wonderful speakers, our local speakers. We didn't have a meeting yesterday at 1 o'clock when I heard our speaker wasn't coming, and and it's now 9 o'clock. We filled the time, and because there's so many important issues that we were able to talk about. And I thank you so much to Shoshana, Jovita, and all our other speakers for being here. It's wonderful. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you. Good job, Brodie.
If there's any other important issues, let me know.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Brodie.
Thank you. Join us next week. We'll hear about the CNOs from two of the members of Mount Save Diablo that know his companies very well, apparently. So thank you again.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, Brodie.
Thank you, Cynthia.